You know what I learned in Japan after spending 3.5 weeks at the Olympics? My main takeaway is I produce a surprisingly small amount of saliva relative to other people.
What does that have to do with anything?
We had to do the saliva tests every other day. And I'd be like, did you do your test today? And they'd be like, yeah. And I'd be like, man, it takes like an hour. And they'd be like, what? I was like, to like fill that little vial with saliva, it doesn't take you like all day. And they were like, no. I'm Hannah Kaiser, and this is our first Bandwagon episode in a very long time.
What's up, my name?
In the interim, I went to Denver to watch Pete Alonso reassert his status as the beefiest bear south of the Arctic Circle. I went to Virginia to visit my baby niece and just absolutely lost my when she learned to stick out her tongue for the first time. But mostly, I was just jet-lagged in Tokyo eating soft, crustless egg sandwiches from Japanese convenience stores and learning just enough about beach volleyball and BMX to cover them at the Olympics. It was wild. Truly, hopefully, once-in-a-lifetime experience. Love the Olympics, but just not a pandemic. And now I am really ready to talk about a sport where I actually understand the scoring system. So this week, I'm going to tell you what I would have said, or at least a condensed version of it, if I had been around for all the biggest baseball storylines from this past month. Actually, it was 7 weeks. The trade deadline, that extremely happened. What a uniquely bad deadline to have missed if you're professionally responsible for knowing where hundreds of guys go to work because a whole bunch of them moved. Or maybe didn't even have to, looking at you, Craig Kimbrell. I was surprised that Rich Hill is on the Mets like half a dozen times since I got back from Tokyo. I don't know why I can't learn that one. Here's a quick rundown of the real-time reactions I would have had to a whole bunch of trades that happened. The Rays finally got a bona fide power bat for DH and Nelson Cruz because scoring runs is almost as important as preventing them when it comes to winning ball games, and because moving to Tampa is what every well-rested senior citizen really wants. I'm not sure which is a bigger indictment of a front office, teammates being pissed that a talented player got traded away, or when a talented player is pissed that he wasn't traded and is still stuck on the same team post-deadline. More trades to react to. Wow, Max Scherzer to the Padres, they just keep getting all the good players. NL West is stacked. And then a few hours later, wow, Max Scherzer to the Dodgers, they really have all the good players. The NL West is stacked. Relatedly, Trey Turner might be the best player to not make the headline in his own deal. The Nats also traded John Lester, Daniel Hedson, Yan Gomes, and Kyle Schwarber.
John Gomes.
Someone checked in on Juan Soto. He's like the freshman who befriended too many seniors and now is stuck staring down 3 long, lonely years. And finally, it's about time that the Chekhov's gun that Theo Epstein left in the Cubs clubhouse by announcing in Act 1 that he was going to leave the party a little early finally, predictably, went off. What else happened?
The Cleveland Guardians.
The Cleveland baseball team announced that the name that they will use just as soon as they're done with the current problematic one is the Guardians. And that looked like a very fun time on Twitter, because who doesn't enjoy having strong opinions about largely aesthetic decisions? And so I checked it out. Honestly, it's fine. The bar for sports franchise names is somewhere below a straightforward description of what's happening around the players' ankles. Team names really only have 2 criteria. They need to be inoffensive and original. And sure, it took entirely too long for Paul Dolan to meet that first criteria, but now we know he isn't that good at meeting the second one either.
The Field of Dreams game.
I did not watch the Field of Dreams game, but apparently so many other people did. It garnered record ratings, and if you're one of the 6 million people who tuned in to watch guys hit balls and run around a field, can I interest you in any one of the other 2,429 regular season games at the sports stages each summer? It's kind of the same thing, especially on TV. We'd love to have you. And if you're the commissioner's office that's basking in the glow of bringing baseball to small-town America, can I interest you in supporting the minor league teams that were doing just that until quite recently?
The New York flip-flop.
I expected to return from Tokyo to a New York full of Mets fans still excited in spite of themselves and Yankees fans still struggling to accept that sometimes insecurity can manifest as an angry defensiveness. But that's because I fell for the oldest deception in sports, the early season mirage. Powerful on paper preseason picks to contend for the World Series title played poorly for a few months, but the baseball season is long. Always forget that. Mid-May, we're always like, this is how it's going to be forever. No, because the Yankees were right to double down on their potential by adding a couple of lefty sluggers at the deadline. Current lineup is so chock full of tree trunk men mashing dingers that Luke Voigt could legitimately be concerned that they're going to institute a 6'4" cutoff, causing him to miss out on playing time.
I want to play. Obviously, I know it's going to be tougher with Rizzo, but, I deserve to play just as much as he does.
Meanwhile, across town, Hugh Quaddle bombed, and Steve Cohen is getting spicy on Maine. And I'm starting to think we all should have seen the Icarus parallels while fawning over Jacob deGrom's ever-increasing velocity. The Mets spent 3 straight months atop the standings and are now barely factors in the wild card race. But since somebody has to win the NL East and the Phillies can't even win a near no-hitter, the Braves are going to walk away with the division.
Still Shohei.
been over a month since we talked about how historically ridiculously impressive Ohtani is, which means that we're overdue to talk about how historically ridiculously impressive Ohtani is. And reciting more numbers just to prove that one is bigger than the other is about the most boring and baseball analysis out there. But as we get closer to a full season of the true two-way experience, there's kind of no better way to quantify the cumulative value of being two superstars and one dreamboat of a baseball man. As of taping, Ohtani has 8.1 WAR. That's the best in MLB, obviously. But what's even crazier is that in second place is Zach Wheeler and Wade Miley. Really? At 5.8 WAR. In other words, Shohei Ohtani is an entire Nelson Cruz, 2.3 WAR, better than the next most valuable player in all of baseball. Right now, 6 weeks from the end of the season, it is looking increasingly likely that Ohtani will be the AL MVP, favorite for his offensive prowess. So he's going to win the AL MVP. He probably won't win the Cy Young Award because they're better pitchers, but he will certainly get some votes. And guys have won both before, but those were all pitchers who were so impactful that they hogged the hardware. But because there's never been anyone like Ohtani before, there's never been a player, looked into this, who won the MVP while also getting some down ballot Cy Young votes and not winning it, which sounds like a jerry-rigged way of saying something unique, but how else are we supposed to come up with new ways to say you've never seen anything like this before? And that leaves us with just one more major MLB storyline that I tracked from afar. Did you guys see the praying mantis that landed on Victor Robles' hat mid-game? It was very cute.
We did.
I'm sure I'm too late to make a joke about how even the guys left behind barely recognize the new Nats players, but it did make me wonder whether the entirety of human society is actually just a subplot in a Pixar movie about an intrepid insect who just loves baseball. If anything else happened, I missed it by being 13 hours ahead and by obsessively tracking the minutia of how sport climbing was going to be scored at the Olympics. So you guys are going to have to tell me about it. We're going to do that now.
Tyler Gilbert's no-hitter.
I kind of saw this actually. So a guy threw a no-hitter in his first major league start, and it was after they cracked down on sticky stuff. Oh my God, how did anyone throw a no-hitter? I'm a fan of this. The Diamondback fans don't have a lot else going on for them. That's very exciting. He peaked, so it's all downhill from there. He's going to be like, wow, normal baseball starts are far less exciting and much less fun and satisfying. I actually think about this a lot. This is like similar to the Yerman Mercedes retires, unretires story, which is, it actually seems really difficult to know that your best performance is behind you.
What the man? You are picking off our fan, not a fan.
Fan of the no-hitter. When am I not? Actually, that was a more controversial stance like 2 months ago. And not a fan of Yerman Mercedes retiring and retiring. I hope he's doing okay.
Fernando Tatis came back as an outfielder after getting hurt.
Originally, when Fernando Tatis Jr. got hurt, it really seemed like he was done for this. Like, it seemed like they were rushing him back and this was going to way backfire. And then there was like that stuff where they were like, the plan is for him to just kind of not swing all the way. And that worked. And then he got hurt again, so it didn't work. And then they brought him back as an outfielder, and that worked. So Fernando Tatis Jr. apparently just is like too good for logic. Like, it's like every time you're like, it doesn't seem like that should make sense, it works out fine, and then logic eventually catches up. I like Fernando Tatis Jr. better in the infield. He's a fun shortstop. Who's playing shortstop for them?
Jake
Cronenworth? That's cool too. Jake Cronenworth can play like any infield position. Jake Cronenworth, very versatile. This is a story about how Jake Cronenworth is good at every position, and I am a fan of that.
Billionaires kind of go to space.
Yeah, no, billionaires shouldn't go to space. They shouldn't go to Mount Everest, see season 1, and they shouldn't go to space. First of all the people to want to leave this planet, why would billionaires? It seems like it's working out just fine for them. Like, they don't need a break. Imagine being a billionaire and being like, I don't like it here. In that case, try changing shit up. See, maybe spend a couple billion on like infrastructure and healthcare and see if you like the planet a little better. Maybe you want to stick around. Just the main thing that I think whenever they do this is not a great sign if people who have unlimited money are like, we got to get the out of here. That's not good. You got those backpacks packed of your survival. You might need those. So not a fan.
Exactly.
Brock Holt throws a 31.3 mile an hour strike.
This was great. We've definitely had this exact take before, which is like other people are tired of seeing position players pitch, but I'm not. If a position player wants to throw a 31 mile an hour pitch for a strike, that sounds great. Fan. So now that I am all caught up, I'm ready to actually start watching baseball in real time. And so by the time you see the next episode, it will be a little bit more timely and a little bit better informed. But appreciate you all for catching me up.